Okay, just a quick update on R2. I've built him some temporary main feet. They're not the final feet, but I've just made these up. They're based on the center drive foot, but it's really just to enable me to get him standing properly, and also so I can move him around a bit easier because he's getting pretty heavy. So the real feet I'm thinking will be something similar to this. This is obviously just the internal chassis, and then the outer shell, like on the front foot, will go over it. But basically there's two wheels, obviously the whole thing is hinged. It's made out of aluminium box section. And what'll probably happen, I'm not sure I'm going to go for the double wheel in each one, the double drive wheel, so effectively four-wheel drive. I think I'm just going to have up the front there, I think I'm going to do the drive wheel, and then at the back I'm going to have a floating caster, which means he'll be able to turn better, because that doesn't actually turn very well, not particularly on, if you're going to spin him on the spot kind of thing. But anyway, so that's done. A few more things since the last time I did a video. There's a new eyepiece now instead of the one I was using, which was resin. I've tried a few of these actually. This one's resin. It's pretty good. If anybody wants it, I'm going to be probably putting it up for sale because I don't need it now. I've gone and bought the really expensive one, which is the aluminium one. But I've got that one. I've got a 3D printed one as well, which is okay. Needs some sanding, obviously, and some filling and painting. All of them are usable. They all use the same eyepiece, fits in all of them. But this one is aluminium, and it is just an absolute work of art. It really is. It's got the slot that goes all the way through for the data slot, but look at the way it fits to the dome. It's just beautiful. There's no gaps. It's really nicely machined, and I'm chuffed to bits with it. It almost seems a shame to paint it. Some of the droids in the club, they don't actually paint them. There's one in particular which is silver. I can't remember the chap's name who built it, but it's a very nice looking droid. It's just all polished aluminium. So yeah, and the other thing that's happened since I saw you last was we've got the dome motor in. So the hinge, the bracket work came from the US. I've got to change the bolts. They're not the right size or shape, but I just wanted to get it going really. And I've just lashed it up very temporarily to two 12-volt motors, giving us 24 volts, which is what that motor is. And that now will start spinning the head. Now obviously there's no radio control in it yet, there's no speed controller, so all it will do is just have the head spinning all the time until I change it. If I reverse the polarity, obviously it will go the other direction. But I wanted to make sure it works, and it does. So again, quite chuffed with that. Things are coming on. It's funny, you go through spells in this sort of with a build like this where you think, you hit a hard bit, it's getting expensive, running out of money, and you think, how am I going to carry on doing this? And you kind of go off the board a little bit, and then something that you ordered a few weeks back turns up, and it just fires your sort of inspiration to keep going. So yeah, really chuffed with the motor, works very well. Very chuffed with the eyepiece, I think it's terrific. And quite happy. So yeah, I don't know if I've shown you the skirt is all 3D printed completely in 4 pieces, I think, or is it 8? It could be 8 pieces actually, which I've glued together and then just bolted onto the underneath. The center ankle hinge is I made out of styrene. The center foot I've made out of styrene as well. And those, as I say, are just aluminium sort of mock feet, prototype feet if you like, or sort of just a bit of a test for now. So there we go. He's coming on. Okay, I've got the 3D printer going again, printing some pieces for R2. Now these are part of the hydraulics that go in the shoulders. I've run out of most of the other colours of of PLA, so I'm just using the clear at the moment, but it will be painted silver. And I can show you which bit it is. It's that. So it's that piece that goes in the, can't remember if it's that way up or that way up, but it goes in the slot on the shoulder opposite the two buttons. So we'll see what it looks like once it's printed. I think here I'm just looking at I could get into so much trouble money wise on this, because I just love, look at this, this is the Com8 frame. I would dearly love to be able to afford this. I might try and do something, I don't know. I mean, that's just the back door, look at it, it's just superb framework, and that's with the skins, or some of the skins. That's the shoulder pieces. So yeah, this is the astromech.net website, and I was just having a look at these earlier on. So that's where the utility arms go. That's mounting for the electronics. That's inside some of the doors. There's a data port door, and there's the charging door as well. Here we go. This is the blue anodized frame, which it's almost a shame to put skins on these. They're so beautiful. That's the inside of the utility arm box, which fits down either side. That's the hinge for the back board where the electronics are all fitted and mounted. That's the inside of the power charger box, which is on R2's front on his right hand side. If you remember Empire Strikes Back, just after it'd been spat out of the mouth of the creature in the water, and he sort of lands in the jungle all really muddy, Luke plugs him in and gives him some power, and that's how it's done. And what the guys in the club looks like they're doing is they're using a cigarette lighter in here from a car. Now whether that can be wired up as an input to charge his batteries or not, I don't know. At the very least you could have that as an output socket, so you could charge your mobile phone at an event. R2 would charge your phone for you, perhaps. That's one possible use for it. Look at this. I just love this. So much to this. This is the working, I think that version has the 232 conversion, so that's the that's very similar actually to what I'd ordered for the motor that I'd shown you earlier on, that spins R2's head. That's the plate that sits at the bottom that holds the centre foot. I have actually contacted this guy to see if I can order some stuff, but I haven't had an answer as yet, so I'm hoping I can get through to him at some point. So yeah, so things are moving on. This is a bit of an experiment really. I'm trying to make some 3D printed foot shells for R2. Now obviously this won't take his weight, but the inner chassis, which is made out of aluminium, with where it fits to the motor and everything, that's all going to be metal work. So this is just the shell. It's like a just the outside skin of the feet. So I can't find any steel ones anywhere, and they're an awful lot of money if I did. So this is just an experiment. I found some 3D files on the internet for the plans. This is the second one printing. The first one I printed in 4 pieces. This one I'm trying in 2 pieces, in 2 halves. So we'll see what happens. But this is the second one. I'll show you the progress of the first one. Okay, this is a bit of the R2-D2 build. This is it's my first attempt at the outer foot shell. Actually, this is a 3D print. I've actually printed it in 4 parts and super glued them together because this is roughly a kilo, so it's about 25-30 quid to print it. It's one reel of filament, but the cost of getting it made in aluminium or steel are 5-6 times that. So actually no, more than that. So I thought I'd give it a go. It's pretty strong. It's not going to take a massive amount of weight because the weight is going to be on the chassis and the foot that's got the driving mechanism and the wheel on there. So the biggest risk, I suppose, is bumping into things when I'm learning to drive him because of the differential drive. So, but I thought I'd show you because I'm kind of surprised and impressed how well that's coming up. Let me just get rid of some of the water that's on there. I'm using a wet and dry system really. I'm just using these sponges here, and I'm using some filler primer, and so far on the BB-8 body shells it's been giving me quite a nice finish, so we'll see. That should be enough for that. One had hose control, how's that? Right then, so yeah, so that's the hope. I'll give you a bit of an update later on, but certainly shape-wise it's pretty good. It's symmetrical, so basically it's one foot does both, so you've got left foot and right foot in the same moulding effectively, so just print two. And then obviously there's the half moon shape to go on the side. The strips are already there, and all I've got to do is cut some aluminium channel to fit in there, which will attach to the top of the foot, the actual mechanics of the foot. And you never know, this might just work. So I'll give you an update a bit later on. Hi, it's Saturday the 9th of July 2016. Another little update on the R2 build. This is one of the feet, one of the outer feet. I'm 3D printing them. I'm hoping one day I can replace them with the steel ones or the aluminium ones, but for now budget just won't allow, so I can effectively print a foot for roughly one reel of filament, so 20-25 quid-ish for a foot, as opposed to about $250 for a steel one. So certainly cheaper. Whether it's going to look as good, it's obviously not going to have the strength, but I've done some tests and so far it's surprisingly strong. The only problem is going to be the joint, because as you can see I can't print the whole foot in one go because it's far too big. This was a 54-hour print, by the way, so I've had to basically cut it in half. What I've done on the other one is I've used Gorilla super glue, which is the gel type glue, which is very good for this sort of thing, and it's been really good, although I did drop it and I've broken it, so I'm now reinforcing that. So I'll show you how I'm reinforcing the joints at the moment, and obviously I can report back in future videos as to how strong it's been, whether it's really worth doing, or whether it's worth hanging on and waiting until I can afford the metal ones. But a lot of this is trial and error and experimentation. So anyway, I'll go to the shed and I'll show you how I'm just going to reinforce so with that joint basically to join the two halves together. Okay, this is the first foot that I'd 3D printed. I actually did this in 4 parts and realised after I'd done it that I could fit it in 2 parts on the printer. So basically what I've done is, as I said earlier, I've used the Gorilla Glue, which is the gel type, which is very good because it's okay if the parts that you're joining aren't completely flat. It helps to bridge the gap in between. And then obviously on the outside I'm just using putty or filler to join up the gaps. But what I'm doing inside is I've just bought some more epoxy resin, which is the 2-part epoxy that you mix together. And I don't know if you can see here, but I've just, where this joint is here, there's a joint just up there, as you can see with the change of colour, change of material, and actually, to be fair, I ran out of material on this one, so it does change material, but the actual joint is here. It's this line here, not that one there, although it probably looks like it's that one there. So what I'm doing is I've just mixed loads. I'm just pouring a load over this at about a, I don't know, 1 to 2 inch span, just to reinforce it on the inside. I've done the same in there on that joint and the same in that corner. So we're sort of doubling up on the glue now. So we've got this joining the actual joint, and this trying to reinforce it on the inside. And thinking about it, if this isn't enough, I've still got other options. I could cut some, I've got lots of styrene up here from when I built the centre foot. So if you imagine, what you could do is get some styrene, hell, it could be aluminium, it could be anything, but styrene, wood, and whatever you like, and basically just glue that down on the inside, and that would help to brace and reinforce it as well. So there's quite a lot you could do to really make that a strong joint, and so far it has to be said that's not bad. It's really quite strong and quite solid. I've already stood R2-D2 on it, and you know, it's plenty strong enough. But of course the inside of the foot, the chassis, is going to be made out of metal, so the pivot on the bottom of the ankle is going to come through there, and then there'll be a bolt running through. That'll all be metalwork which will fill this gap, so the foot will sort of sit on top of the metalwork, if that makes sense. So so that's the plan anyway. So that's, you can see the glue quite clearly on that side. I'm just going to do this side now, so I'll mix a whole lot more up, and as I say, there's plenty of other things we can do to reinforce that joint if need be. Just a little update on R2. Haven't got much work on today, so I'm going to do a bit more of the droids. What I've been looking at is batteries. You've probably seen I've been playing with these lead acid batteries, which have lots of capacity, but they're so heavy. And I've also been toying with some lipos as well, much smaller and lighter. The benefits, pretty good, pretty good capacity, but not obviously the same as a lead acid. But the weight saving is enormous. You know, the other downside, of course, lipos, you got to look after them. They are potentially a little dangerous. They can, if you draw too much current from them too quickly, or try and charge them too quickly, or try the wrong type of charging, you can literally, they can go on there. They can burst into flames. Never seen it happen, but yeah. So it's part of the decision. Anyway, what I've decided to do was 3D print some little bracket, some little battery boxes, which I was going to put roughly where those batteries are, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side in that sort of space down there. The idea is I've got two batteries which are in series. They're both 11.1, so they're sort of getting pretty close to my 24 volts I need for the dome motor, which is there. And on the other side I'm going to have the 12 volts batteries, so basically probably just two of them to give the capacity, but I'll just have those in parallel, and they're providing 12 volts, which then goes through the little regulator, drops down to about 9, which then powers the lighting in the head and some other bits and pieces. as time goes on, I'll probably try and use that 5 volt. This is actually 4.5, obviously 3 1.5. So, but I would like to try and get rid of some of these extra batteries. I've got some batteries there for the receiver, which I don't technically need. It seems to work without them. Just taking some power from the speed controller, but I'm not sure if that's by quirk or by design. So could potentially lose those and those, so we'll see. But I'm going to go and show you. I've drawn something out on 3D design, and that's going to hold the batteries hopefully, so I'll show you that. Okay, so this is my battery box that I've designed today. It's very simple. It's just a rectangle with two hollowed out rectangles effectively, and that's it. I'm just going to use some servo tape to stick it against the side wall. It'll be on the base, so gravity will do the rest, and the batteries will just literally drop into there, and that's what it's looking like. Not far off. It's got another, what's that, 37 minutes to go. I'm just watching the material because I'm running very low. I've got some more ready to go in, but I try not to waste too much of it, but equally I don't want to ruin the print just by missing the last 10 minutes. So that's it. Not doing too much else today. I did want to get in the shed and do some painting for the BB-8 droid, but I'm finding it a little bit too hot. It's 33 out there at the moment. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Absolutely clear blue sky, but it's so hot, and my shed is like a little oven. So I thought I'd spend some time in the house, try and get a bit of a breeze through, and do some CAD stuff and some 3D printing. So anyway, that rings a bell. I'm going to have to go. I'll catch you later. Okay, so those are the two battery boxes that I've made up, both 3D printed, slightly different to cater for different size batteries, and I've sort of modified it a bit. That was the first one I did, and then on the second one I thought, rather than just let the batteries sit on the floor of the Droid, I'll put a floor in it, and then that way this could be supported a bit higher up. So I'm going to go and mount those in R2 now, and I'll show you how they're going to work. Okay, and that's the battery box sitting in place, or one of them. I think I'm going to reprint another one actually, rather than use that prototype one I did. I like the idea of the fact that that one's got a little floor in it, a little bottom to it, so that will just hold the batteries, and it just means I can get to them nice and easy to swap them out, because these those are at the moment powering the dome, and they're wired up in series to give 24 volts, or very nearly. And the idea is I can just literally just pop them in there, job done. They're not going to move around too far. I can always put a little Velcro strap over the top or something if I want to make sure they're not going to move if I sort of was to turn him upside down or lie him down, which I just can't see happening too often, apart from maybe travelling to events, and even then I'd probably take all the batteries out before he went into a vehicle. So so that's the idea. So I think I'm just going to do another one the same for down there, and that's it. It just seemed like a nice out of the way method of storing the batteries. Hi all, just a little bit of an update on R2. You've all seen the legs that I've built. Basically these were, here's the other one, these were built out of MDF, which has been sealed, and all the supports inside there were all 3D printed, which was a way of getting them all identical, so they're nice and parallel and you know, not wonky in any way. So that seemed like a good idea. All of those pieces, instead of sort of cut from styrene or wood, they're all 3D printed, and there's quite a lot in there that gives you quite a bit of strength. I don't know if you can see in there. There we go. There's a metal rod down there that you can fish the cables through, and they come out the bottom of the ankles just through that little slot there. This is all pretty much as per the plans for the styrene droids. But as you may have just noticed down here, I've had a delivery today. Ta-da! And these are the business. We've got aluminium horseshoes with the internal bits in there. Can't get it off. There we go. So there's the legs themselves, which are aluminium, beautifully made, absolutely beautifully made. The interesting thing, I'm quite chuffed actually, because if I do that, you can see how close mine were. They're not perfectly identical. There's certain things I couldn't do, like the groove. It was hard to do in MDF. But the curve is really not bad. This was a modified 3D printed part, the horseshoe. And the channel obviously in the side there, I couldn't go down this bit, or I didn't go down on this bit, so it's not 100% perfect, but not far off. So I'm really quite chuffed that mine weren't that far out from the plans, but I'm just so pleased with these because there's so much extra detail, like these ridges inside, which I couldn't do on the 3D. Well, I suppose I could have done actually if I'd have put a little bit more work into it. I did find a 3D print file actually that does simulate those, but it wasn't to scale, so you'd have to scale it. So I've put all the other little aluminium bits in the buttons and the hydraulics, which are all fitted in from the back. Could I get the phone? I'll come back to you later. Hi, sorry about that. Right, yes, so I was telling you about these legs. I've also tried, these feet are 3D printed, believe it or not. They're on the astromech.net website under the 3D files section. So those ankles are the ones I made out of styrene, you may remember. The feet are 3D printed. I'm not sure if they're going to be okay in the long run, but I've got someone helping me make up the insides for the chassis for the feet, for the foot drives. And I'm thinking, well, these will just sit over the top, so it may not have to be too strong. Having said that, they are pretty strong. I mean, the whole of the weight of him is sitting on about a 5mm length of 3D printed foot, and there's a glued joint halfway along roughly as well. So in fact you can probably just see the lines there of where the joint is. So the joint is right where all the weight is, and so far it's pretty sturdy. So I've tried this as well. This is what you get if you try the 3D printed ankle. Basically it's 3 parts. I don't know if I can get a part in with one hand. Come on, yes I can. No I can't. Yes I can. Right. Okay, so you've got the small piece, which you can see there has been glued onto the larger piece, and then that channel fits in there, and then you've got some little hexagon shaped holes for the screw heads, or the hex heads if you've got bolts in there. So I'm going to see, ultimately now I've started on the aluminium, I want to go that way. Ultimately I want them to be all aluminium, but until I've got the, I mean, I'm spending so much, until I can afford to get some of the other bits out of Ali, and of course until there's a run. At the moment there's none available that I can see on the internet, so even if I did have the money I couldn't order them just yet. So I'm going to see if I can get one of those just temporarily to fit one of those, and it looks like a pretty good fit actually. So I'm just going to see if I can do a temporary thing like that until I can get some aluminium ankles, because what I may end up doing is, as these develop, I may no longer need the original legs, which I might be able to pass on if anyone is interested. In fact, there's a couple of people on the club already said they're interested in those legs if I'm not going to keep them. So we'll see how that goes. At the moment I'm actually working on the dome, which is why it's not there. Oh, incidentally, I've changed the slip ring. I had a slip ring with 6 wires. I've now got one with 24 wires, so I've got a lot more stuff, you can see here. So hopefully I can get some more servos and lights going. Got a lot more wires that I can take up into the dome. But speaking of the dome, I'm go and show you. It's out in the shed. Hold on. Okay, here's the dome in the shed. And what I'm doing, I'm just gluing on part of the hinges. I've had awful trouble with these hinges. Basically what I've discovered is that in order for them to work, using the hinges as they came, you have to shave off a little piece of that edge in there. See if I can get something sharp enough to point for you. Hold on. This edge here. Where are we? There we are. That edge there I'm having to chamfer, and also this edge here I'm also having to chamfer, otherwise it just doesn't close properly. But once you do that, it does close. And then there's going to be a little servo down here which will have an armature attached to the spring. I think the spring's there so it can give it some permanent tension to hold it shut so they don't rattle. But that's the idea, and if you pull on that, the door will close. If you push on that, the door will open. I've got it quite tight at the moment, but there you go, that's the idea. So it will pull up quite tight, and then once the spring's on there, hopefully it will help to hold it shut. So I'm just gluing the next two on at the moment. It's all a bit experimental. I've taken the hollow projectors out. I wasn't too pleased with those. They were resin. They weren't too bad, but the more I'm trying to make him alley and make him look really good, the less good the resin ones looked. So I'm experimenting with some. Those are the resin, some of the resin parts, and that's the resin projector itself. So what I'm experimenting with is these are 3D printed. I found these in the club files. Let me just put the top on my pen so it doesn't dry out. And the idea being, if I can use those instead, that's on 0.1 of a millimeter resolution. They're quite nice. The sphere is quite nice, and they're reasonably smooth. So what I've tried to do, the other thing is this has this shape in it. It's not the same, so you can really improve or enhance the angle that it will move. So you see it'll go all the way from that to that, and then the way it works is that goes over the top. I think there's an end cap. I'm using a different end cap at the moment, so there'll be a different kind of end cap eventually. That will go in there like so, and as I'm managing to sort of smooth the surface, I've got a reasonable amount of movement. Now I'm trying to 3D print the actual inside piece, which is up on the printer at the moment, just to see if that's any smoother than the resin, because the resin isn't completely round, and I've sanded it as best I can. There's a bit of a ridge there and a bit of a ridge there. So I'll use whichever works out best in the end. Again, one day I'll replace them for aluminium ones, but that's a bit cost prohibitive. So that's what's going on today. I need to redo some of the wiring, because the lights in the dome was using this before, and the hollow projector obviously had its own, but I need to rethink that now I've got that slip ring with far more connections on it. So there we go. You may also have noticed I've taken all the blue paint back off. It was getting scratched as I was building him, so I've decided just to leave it all off, and I'm going to paint it last, I think, because otherwise I'm going to end up painting it about 5 or 6 times, and some of it's actually quite nice in the aluminium, especially the eyepiece. It's just beautifully done. So anyway, I think that's it for the time being. Oh, there you go. There's one of the doors. I found, thanks to some of the guys in the club, the recommendation was to use this JB Weld, which really does seem to stick alley to alley very, very nicely indeed. In fact, when I had some of these go wrong on me, when I took them off, it actually ripped the aluminium. So the weld is stronger than the aluminium, so be careful. If I get this wrong, I'm going to have to start again with the hinges. So anyway, so that's it. That's it for now. I'll come back to you with an update a little bit later on.